You know that feeling, spending hours and hours studying, but the results just don't match the effort? Well, in this explainer, we're breaking down a classic guide that promises to help you study smarter, not harder.
Okay, so today we're diving into an absolute classic, Ron Fry's How to Study. I mean, for decades, this book has been a total lifesaver for students, and it really gets at this idea that the most important subject you can possibly master is the art of learning itself.
All right, let's start with a little gut check here. Does this sound familiar to you? You feel like you're putting in the time, you're putting in the hours, but the results, they're just not matching up with all that effort. Okay, or what about this one? I bet this will hit home for a lot of you. You know the material, you've studied for days, right? But then you sit down for the actual test and bam, the anxiety kicks in and the grade you get just doesn't reflect what you actually know. That's a classic sign that your study methods might actually be working against you, not for you. So if you found yourself nodding along to that, you are definitely not alone. But here's the good news, and it's really good news. The solution is not to study even harder. Nope, it's to study smarter. It's all about changing your entire approach. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to break down the book's whole system into three really powerful, totally actionable pillars that can, no joke, completely transform how you learn. First up, pillar number one, and this one is all about self-awareness. I mean, think about it. It's built on a super simple idea. You can't improve what you don't understand, right? So before you go changing anything, you've got to take a really honest look at where you're at right now.
You know, the author, Ron Fry, he puts it so well. He says everyone's starting line is in a different place. And trying to use some, one-size-fits-all study plan without knowing your own profile, it's literally like trying to run a race without even knowing where the starting line is.
So, what this means is, it's time for a little honest self-evaluation. Really think about it. How's your reading and comprehension? What about your time management? How are you at taking notes in class, or writing papers, or even just prepping for a test? Pinpointing your own unique strengths and weaknesses, that is the absolute essential first step. Okay, so once you know your starting point, we move on to pillar two, which is all about building your system. This is where the magic happens. This is where you actually design an environment and a mindset that makes focused studying feel, well, almost effortless.
And look, a huge part of this whole system is motivation. And the goal pyramid, it's just a brilliant tool for this. It connects that boring, tedious chapter you have to read tonight, that's your short-range goal, directly to your biggest ambitions in life. And all of a sudden, that small, annoying task has a much, much bigger purpose.
And this illustrates a really simple but super powerful idea. Your brain creates associations. So if your study space is also where you watch TV or scroll on your phone, your brain is just getting mixed signals. But by creating a dedicated, distraction-free zone just for studying, you're basically training your mind to switch into focus mode automatically the second you sit down. All right, now for what might be a real game changer for you, the 80-20 rule. You might have heard of this. It's a pretty simple concept. It basically says that a small amount of your effort, we're talking like 20%, is responsible for the vast majority, like 80% of your results. So let's see how this actually applies to studying.
And here it is. This is the big aha moment. Not all studying is created equal. Not even close. Your goal, your mission, is to figure out what that vital 20% of high-impact activities are. So, instead of just passively rereading your notes for the fifth time, maybe your 20% is actively creating flashcards for key terms, or doing practice problems without peeking at the answers, or even trying to teach a concept to a friend. These active methods, they deliver a massive, massive return on your time. So, speaking of those high-impact activities, it's time for Pillar 3, Mastering the Specific Skills of Learning. And we're going to start with the most fundamental one of all, how to read something and actually, remember what you just read. Okay, so the book basically argues that just diving in and reading a chapter from page 1 to the end is one of the most inefficient things you can possibly do. Seriously. Instead, you should pre-read. This whole process only takes a few minutes, but what it does is create a mental framework, kind of like a map of the chapter in your head. That makes it so much easier for your brain to absorb and organize all the details when you do go back for a more thorough read. You're giving your brain the big picture first, so every little detail has a place to go. And here's a cool way to think about it. Think of reading like you're driving. The author gives you signposts in the text to tell you when to speed up, when to slow down, or when to pay really close attention. So words like likewise or moreover, that's your green light. You can keep your pace. But a word like however or on the other hand, that's a signal to hit the brakes, slow down, and notice a change in direction. When you start reading dynamically like this, using these clues, you save a ton of time and your comprehension just skyrockets.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. We've talked about knowing yourself, building a solid system, and mastering these key techniques. But here's the thing. This isn't just a random collection of tips. It's a whole new way of thinking about learning itself.
This quote from the book, it just captures it all perfectly. See, these aren't just little tricks to get a better grade on your next exam. This is way bigger. This is about getting a meta skill, the ability to learn anything effectively. And that is arguably the most valuable skill you can have for your entire life, for your whole career.
And that really brings us to the final and most crucial point. Effective learning isn't some fixed trait you're born with. It is a skill. It's a process. And just like any other skill, it's something that anyone, and I really mean anyone, can get better at with the right strategy and a little practice. So we'll leave you with this question to think about. You don't have to go and overhaul your entire life overnight. That's not the point. The journey to becoming a smarter learner, it just starts with one single small change. So what's one small change you're going to make starting today? Maybe it's finally creating that dedicated study space, or maybe it's just trying the pre-reading technique on your next chapter. What's it going to be for you?